Hi, my name is Cecilia Brown, and here is my practice for my persuasive speech. Did you guys know that every year there are over 100,000 deaths in the United States due to drug overdose? The United States was established on beliefs that all men are entitled to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Our government has chosen laws and chosen to govern its citizens in ways that protect these rights. Today, we are all faced with a question of whether or not marijuana should be legalized in the United States. Some argue that drugs should be legalized because it has medicinal benefits that are superior to other drug alternatives. In contrast, others argue that use of pot infringes on the rights of non-drug using Americans and that overall the average person can't practice the self-control needed to use this drug effectively and responsibly. As someone who has watched two of my siblings fall into the addiction of marijuana, I have seen some of its devastating effects. Today, I want to share how the legalization of marijuana is something that should not occur in the United States. Today, I will share that marijuana legalization is something that should not occur in the United States by discussing the following topics. First, legalization of marijuana will lead to more individuals experimenting with this drug. Second, marijuana will act as a gateway drug, leading some to pursue the use of more dangerous substances. And three, marijuana legalization will result in higher fatalities on American roads as marijuana-related accidents will increase. To begin with, the United States, with respect to how its citizens view the use of legal status of marijuana, is changing. Gone are the days that most Americans would look at marijuana as a scary drug or something that can have very negative effects on other people. It is impossible for U.S. citizens to remain neutral on this topic, as there are now 39 states in the United States that have legalized marijuana for medicinal and recreational use. However, even as legal status changes regarding marijuana use, many people are resistant to its widespread acceptance because they argue that legalization will encourage more individuals to experiment with marijuana use, including children under the age of 18. This is one of the major arguments against the legalization of this drug. As stated by Dr. Robert L. DuPont, who is the president of an Institute for Behavior and Health Incorporation, he says there is little public awareness and close to zero media attention to the near doubling of past year marijuana use nationally among adults age 18 and older, and the corresponding increase in problems related to its use. He goes on to argue that this drug if it becomes accepted in our society and accessible due to its legalization, more people will choose to experiment with it. Legalization takes away from the taboo status of marijuana use. An example of this can be seen in stores in Colorado, Washington State, where one can experiment with marijuana use through forms other than smoking pot. Edibles, including cookies, candy, and soda, vaporizer pens, and oils, all provide convenient methods of consuming marijuana and are often criticized for targeting younger users. Another criticism of these products is that they encourage a great number of users and heavier usage of marijuana. Dr. DuPont goes on to say that the total number of Americans with marijuana use disorders also has significantly increased. It is particularly disturbing that the public is unaware of the fact that all Americans with substance use disorders due to drugs other than alcohol, nearly 60% are due to marijuana. What this means is that more Americans struggle with addiction to marijuana than they do any other drug. Even highly addictive drugs such as heroin, cocaine, methamphetamines, and prescription drugs. Secondly, I want to point out that marijuana acts as the most common gateway drug, meaning people start with marijuana only to end up unsatisfied with the high it gives and move towards more dangerous and harder drugs. A gateway drug is a substance that is believed to be a stepping stone in order to reach a more damaging substance. The National Institute for Drug Abuse states, when people begin to use marijuana while their younger brains are still developing, which can be in their early 20s, it can change the reward system of their brains. Other drugs may become more appealing. Animal research found that early exposure to marijuana makes using opioid drugs more pleasurable. It is well known that people who use hard drugs such as heroin use marijuana first. Federal Bureau of Narcotics Commissioner Harry Anslinger conducted a study of 1,200 New Yorkers who were followed from high school through their mid-30s. 95% who used illegal drugs started their use with cannabis. The link between cannabis use and other illicit drug use found to be particularly strong among heavy marijuana users and people who began using marijuana at an early age. This finding emphasizes the danger of modern marijuana products, such as edibles, vaporizer pens, that appeal to younger consumers. Sadly, the link to marijuana uses the future illicit drug use was proven to be evident with respect to opioids. A 2017 analysis of data from the National Epidemiologic Survey on Alcohol and Related Conditions found that young men and women who have used marijuana were 2.5 times as likely to report illegal use of prescription opioids. Perhaps the strongest argument against legalization in the United States is that Americans are paying the price on the roads. Since the first states in the Union began the journey to legalization of marijuana, drivers started paying the price with traffic incidents. Some of these incidents are simply fender benders. Other incidents cost lives of innocent people. Avoiding to Kurt Isaacson, President and CEO of the Spectrum Health Services, among the myriad of problems associated with widespread legalization of marijuana comes the effect it has on traffic fatalities. He states that proponents of legalization try to minimize the negative effects of pot usage while the real effects include the increases in traffic fatalities, hospitalizations, and marijuana-related poisonings following the legalization of recreational marijuana. In Washington state, for example, the number of traffic deaths due to marijuana-impaired drivers double in the year after recreational marijuana was legalized. In Colorado, the number of fatal accidents involving marijuana rose by 62% in its recreational use when recreational use was legalized in 2012. The police are limited in their ability to identify impaired drivers due to the nature of THC, the mind-altering chemical found in cannabis. While drivers under the influence of alcohol are easy to measure using a breathalyzer, drivers under the influence of marijuana are far more difficult to identify. According to Zara Rizaldi, a pharmacist quoted in the medical news today, she says that THC can remain in the body up to 30 days, depending on how frequently the individual uses marijuana. This lingering effect of the brain-altering THC makes it difficult for law enforcement individuals to quantify how impaired a driver is at any given time. In conclusion, opinions about whether marijuana should be legalized or not range from using the drug with absolutely no restrictions to retaining the U.S. government's Schedule 1 drug classification to somewhere in between. I believe that marijuana should remain illegal based on the fact that it would be used by more people if the drug became legal. I understand that there are many people that do use marijuana for medicinal usage and they do so responsibly, But I think overall, the average person, if marijuana was legalized, would abuse that right. And we would see a lot of negative effects from it. The American people will pay the price of marijuana legalization on the roads as drug-related accidents result in higher fatalities among innocent people. I've observed the price that heavy marijuana use on the lives of my loved ones. The drug ensnares its users, and leaves them without motivation and drive to pursue a productive and fulfilling life. Thank you for listening to my speech, and yeah.